Hello everyone. I was painting tonight and had a couple brushes that I threw some dark color in. You can see here, and this is a 2-inch Bob Ross brush. This is the 1-inch. So I just thought I'd really low-key setup here. I thought that, and I think I promised that I would do a video of how I clean my brushes. So I showed previously how I use these 2 buckets. I've actually got a third one sitting right over here. But I like having 2 buckets to keep the paint. Use one as a pre-cleaning or initial cleaning, 1-step, 2-step. So this is the dirtiest bucket I have right now. This one is the clean one. The screen's kind of clean, and the thinner looks a little discolored, but it's actually clean. It's just reused thinner. So I thought I'd show you guys how to clean these brushes, or at least the way I clean them. There is no right, wrong way to clean these things. If it works for you, it works. I'm sure there are wrong ways, but I'll just show you my way. My way may be wrong, so who knows. But what I like to do, and I'll do the 1-inch here first, and I like to take the 1-inch, and I don't really take it initially in here on the screen and like go crazy with it. I really just kind of push some of that color out first. Just kind of bounce it on that screen a little bit, and then I'll take it. And it's going to get really dirty where you won't be able to see the next one, and then I'll just lightly rub it on there, and then I will kind of get that off, just like old Bob would do on the TV on his trash can. But I'm going to rake that most back in there because I'm cheap. I'm saving some of my thinner because that color will drop back down. But you can already see that that brush is really getting close to being clean. I mean, really, it's super wet now. I don't paint with it at this point, but it's fairly clean. So I usually keep these old rags around, and what I like to do at that point is just kind of go on to one of these old rags and just rub some of that color out, okay? Now, that's not fun, is it? Bob would always beat the devil out. I just call this wiping the devil. But you can see pretty much that this brush is clean now. Now, it's probably still really wet because I got a good bit of thinner in there. So if you're so inclined, you can go over here to the thinner bucket. We're now over here at the thinner bucket, and I'm just going to kind of balance this for a minute so you guys can see. Get my tripod out of the way. Alright, we're now at the thinner bucket. I'll get us a good close up here. Alright, just take that's fairly clean, but I'm going to go ahead and beat the devil. I'm not going to beat it super hard, but just kind of rake it across those, or across the beater rack. Just shake it off, okay? Now that's really probably unnecessary because I'd already wiped so much out. I'll do the next one with, I won't clean the next one as good, but that's one way. So still probably not good and clean, but it may be. You know, you can test it out. Remember, a dry brush when you're continuing to paint is better than a clean brush, really. So if it had a little bit of paint in there, it'd be better than trying to work with a sopping wet thinner brush. So there's that one, okay. Okay, so now we're back, and I'm going to grab the 2-inch that has some of that, I believe that's mountain mix in the brush, maybe a little bit of black with the mountain mix. Fairly dirty. Just kind of demonstrating how I clean these brushes. So what I want to do is another way that I showed you the 1-inch, and I didn't really have to beat much out of the brush there because it was fairly clean after that initial dip in here. So I'm just going to go in there, kind of bounce around again, get some of that color out, okay? All right. And then I would go over here to, let's go over to the beater rack after I've done one of these. Cleaned it, let's clean it a little better. Okay, there we go. And that's my dirtiest thinner. Let's go over here to our beater rack now. Back at the beater rack here. We're back at the beater rack, and I'm going to take that 2-inch brush that's still got some paint in it. It's got a lot of thinner. I like to give it that old sling out to paint in my trash can here. Okay. And I am wearing protection right now. I don't have gloves on. I usually wear gloves. So, and if they're laying right here, I'm just lazy. I'm not cleaning but these 2 brushes, so I didn't think it was that necessary. But I'm just going to, I'm not going to beat the devil out as much as just kind of rake the devil out. The more you take this brush down here and the more you beat it on this rack or homemade racks or whatever, the more quickly this brush is going to deteriorate, and it's going to essentially break the hairs off the end of it. This brush here is probably 4 years old, maybe 5. So mine's holding up fairly well. Still got a little bit of paint in there, but let's do the second step of the cleaning. Okay, so if you remember, I had the 2-inch brush. We dipped into here. You can see it's really dark now, so that bucket's getting quite dirty. By tomorrow, it'll be cleared up enough to use it again. But I still have some dirt, dirt paint. You guys know that. I didn't actually paint with dirt tonight. There's some paint on that brush still. So what we want to do is my second batch of thinner here, my second bucket, that's quite clean. This is really clean thinner. It looks a little yellowish orangish, but that's just because it's reused thinner. It's not completely clean, but it's clean enough. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to just kind of, again, with that kind of pushing on that screen. And I'm trying not to go too far down to where I don't need paint to get up into the past here, really, because the paint's only down below here. We don't want to get paint up into the metal part of the brush. It'll just run the brush a lot faster. So just be careful with that. And if you need to, you can give it a little swirl. And then what we need to do is go back to the beater rack for the second time, and I'll show you how easily that comes clean. We are right on this rack now, so you can see that the brush is fairly clean. Let's see if that'll focus. Really good and clean, really. I mean, it's an old brush that's could be a little discolored. Should have started with a new one to show you guys, but there's that. So I'll just get in here and I'll just rake some of that off. That's all I need to do. I don't need to beat the devil out of it. Rake a little bit off. I know it's not as fun. Bob made it look much more fun than me. But this brush, again, is probably 5 years old. I think it is 5 years old, so holding up quite well. Let's go back, and one more thing I'll show you is I now got a fairly clean brush, right? I mean, it's really good and clean. There's a little bit on my... I see so many times people with paint brushes, they have paint caked on them all the way down the handle and up in here, and I'm like, wipe your brushes off. If you take care of a brush, it will take care of you. So just wipe that off, get it good and clean. And this towel is clean. It's dirty, but it's clean. If that makes any sense. And then I'll just lightly kind of rub this brush on this towel, and maybe there's a little bit upon the bristles there. Just kind of wipe that off. I'm not going to pull like a lot of pressure. I'm just going to wipe, and then I like to just kind of lay the brush. I've got a little pad back here that will soak the rest of that thinner up, and that'll be good to go in a little bit. You know, I could paint with it right now if I wanted to. Maybe a little bit more drying, but that's kind of how I use the 2 bucket system. It allows me to keep one really dirty, and if I was cleaning brushes from class, this is particularly helpful, or if you're painting a bunch. Keeping your first cleaning in here, wipe it out on a towel, or either do it on the beater rack, or both, probably both, and then come back into here after you've got most of it out and do another cleaning in mostly clean thinner. It'll keep your brushes from getting gummy. It'll keep them really good and clean. And if your brushes ever need conditioning, you can buy that, but I rarely put conditioner on any of my brushes besides my script liners. So that's just kind of a quick little video, and thanks you guys for watching. Hope everyone's well.